Have you ever given so much to others that you lost yourself? Maybe you're the friend who always says yes, the coworker who picks up every extra shift, or the family member who drops everything when someone calls. You want to help, to be needed, to make a difference. But what if, in your quest to be there for everyone else, you slowly disappear from your own life? What if you never realize the true cost until it's too late? Until your dreams, your energy, and even your happiness have quietly slipped away? Today, we're going to uncover the hidden price of always putting others first, and why learning to say no might be the most important gift you ever give yourself. David was the kind of person everyone admired. He had a warm smile, a gentle voice, and a reputation for being the first to lend a hand. At work, he was the one who stayed late to help colleagues finish their projects. At home, he was the dependable son, always ready to run errands for his parents or fix things around the house. His friends knew they could call him at any hour, and he would show up, no questions asked. Deep down, David dreamed of starting his own business, traveling the world, and writing a book about his adventures. But every time an opportunity came up, someone else needed him more. He told himself that his time would come, that helping others was the right thing to do. So, day after day, David said yes to everyone, believing that his kindness would eventually lead him to happiness. What he didn't realize was that with every yes, he was quietly putting his own dreams on hold. One small sacrifice at a time. On the outside, David's life looked perfect. People praised his generosity, calling him a lifesaver and the glue that holds everyone together. He was invited to every gathering, trusted with every secret, and relied on for every crisis. But behind closed doors, David's world was very different. His mornings started with a flood of messages, requests for favors, pleas for advice, reminders of promises he'd made. He barely had time to eat breakfast before rushing to help a neighbor move furniture, then skipping his lunch break to cover a coworker's shift. By evening, he was too tired to work on his business, plan, or even read a single page of the book he once dreamed of writing. His phone buzzed constantly, each notification another reminder that someone needed him. David's own needs faded into the background. He missed out on a job interview because he was helping a friend move. He canceled a weekend trip he'd planned for months because his family needed him at home. The more he gave, the more people expected. Yet, the more he was admired in public, the lonelier and emptier he felt in private. David's smile became a mask, hiding the exhaustion and quiet ache of a life spent serving others while his own dreams slipped further away. One rainy afternoon, David received an email he'd been waiting for his entire life, an invitation to interview for his dream job, the kind of opportunity that could finally launch his business career. The interview was scheduled for the next morning. David's heart raced with excitement, but just as he was preparing, his phone rang. It was his best friend, panicked and in tears, stranded on the other side of town with a broken-down car. Without hesitation, David grabbed his keys and rushed out, telling himself he could manage both. But traffic was worse than he expected, and by the time he got his friend safely home, the interview window had closed. David stared at the missed call from the company, his hands trembling. The weight of disappointment crashed over him. He had sacrificed his own future, again, for someone else. That night, alone in his room, David finally let the tears fall. For the first time, he wondered if his endless giving had cost him more than he could ever get back. The next day, David's mentor, Mr. Lee, noticed the sadness in his eyes and invited him for coffee. As they sat together, David tried to hide his disappointment, but Mr. Lee gently asked what was wrong. The story spilled out. How he'd missed the interview, how he always put others first, how empty he felt inside. Mr. Lee listened quietly, then placed a hand on David's shoulder. "You have a good heart, David, but even the strongest heart can break if it's never cared for. You're giving away pieces of yourself, but what's left for you?" The words hit David like a wave. He saw all at once the pattern of his life, the dreams abandoned, the exhaustion, the loneliness. He realized he had been so afraid of letting others down that he had let himself down, over and over. The regret was sharp, but so was the clarity. For the first time, David understood the true cost of always saying yes, and he knew something had to change. That night, David lay awake, wrestling with guilt and fear. What if his friends thought he was selfish? What if his family felt abandoned? The thought of disappointing people he cared about made his chest tighten. But then another fear crept in. What if he never got another chance at his dreams? What if his life kept passing him by, one favor at a time, until there was nothing left for himself? The next morning, David took a deep breath and made a promise. He would start saying no. The first time was the hardest. When a coworker asked him to cover another late shift, David politely declined, his heart pounding. He worried about what she'd think, but to his surprise, she simply nodded and found someone else. Each time he set a boundary, the fear lessened, and a new feeling grew, relief. David realized he wasn't losing friends. He was gaining space for his own life. The FOMO shifted. Now, he was afraid of missing out on his own potential, his own happiness. And that, he decided, was something he could no longer ignore. As the weeks passed, David's life began to change in ways he never expected. At first, saying no felt awkward, almost unnatural, but with each boundary he set, he felt a little lighter. He started to notice how much time he actually had when he wasn't constantly running to everyone's rescue. For the first time in years, David sat down with his old notebook and began sketching out ideas for his business. He dusted off his travel guides and started planning a weekend getaway, something just for himself. The exhaustion that once weighed him down was slowly replaced by a quiet excitement. He woke up with energy, eager to see what he could accomplish for himself. Friends and family noticed the difference too. David was still kind and helpful, but now he was present, not drained. He laughed more, listened better, and even inspired others to respect their own limits. The contrast was striking. The man who once felt invisible in his own life was now the author of his days. He realized that by protecting his time and energy, he could give more authentically, without resentment or regret. David's world grew bigger, not smaller, as he learned to balance caring for others with caring for himself. The fulfillment he'd been searching for was finally within reach, and it all began with a single, courageous no. With his new boundaries, David's relationships grew stronger and more genuine. Friends respected his time, and his family admired his confidence. Most importantly, David finally launched his small business, a dream he'd postponed for years. He felt proud, not just of his achievements, but of the balance he'd created. David understood now that true kindness wasn't about giving until you're empty. It was about sharing from a place of strength and self-respect. By caring for himself, he could offer more to others. And for the first time, he felt truly whole. Helping others is beautiful, but not at the cost of your own life. Remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. If you always say yes to everyone else, you risk saying no to your own dreams, health, and happiness. Today, take a moment to reflect. Where do you need to set a healthy boundary? Choose just one area and make a small change. Protect your time, honor your needs, and watch how your life and your ability to help others transforms for the better. Start now.